5, 4, 3, 2, 1. What's Your Reel is a podcast where we interview with industry-leading creatives to learn their story about who they are, how they got there, and where they want to go. We invite you to join us on the journey as we roll their reel to learn how these creatives are finding their way to success. I'm one of your hosts, Andy, and I'm here with my friend Cam today. And today we have Tommy Graves as our guest on the show. Welcome to the show, Tommy.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, you know I have to leave in the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 because I have no idea why you did it.
I don't know. It helps my 3 coffee brain focus a
Would you
little
like
bit.
me to count it down next time just to like get you in the flow?
Maybe.
Okay,
Let's all three of us do it in harmony.
That's a new one. Andy always. It's so funny because I talk about this at the start of every podcast. I really shouldn't, but every time he starts and does this thing, he's like, "Oh, I don't really remember," and then nails it. And I'm just like, "Yeah, you did
really good.
I just got to get the ball rolling, you know?
No offense, but I was sitting here thinking, I wonder how many takes we're going to have to do with this. One take, man. That's great.
I polished that intro to memory.
It's good.
One take wonder. Well, Tommy, thank you for doing this. I am stoked for this conversation.
Awesome. Me
Because
too.
every time I see you or whatever, whether it be at 158 Main for breakfast, because we
Right.
always seem to be there at the same time,
Right.
or at church on Sunday morning, we always have a good conversation.
We do.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to this. But we kind of, I guess, to start, want to get to know you. Mm-hmm. What are you doing on this podcast?
What am I? I was going to ask you guys that. It's a really great question. Andy reached out and wanted to, see if I would be interested in coming in to talk to you guys. And I was thinking, wow, this will be kind of fun. I've been a fan of the podcast that you guys have been doing, and I'm honored to be here. And I'm here because you guys invited me, and I'm excited to just talk with you guys. I don't really think there's all that much special going on. I'm in the world of Tommy Graves, but I do really enjoy what I get to do. So this is all good.
Yeah, low-key guitar rock star, guitar hospital, Harley Davidson builder. Yeah, there's nothing cool to talk about at all.
I get that a lot, and it's really funny.
It was a Honda
because I never really look at myself or my life and in that way. And I'm just blessed to get to do what I do. And it's interesting because I've had various seasons of my life. You brought up the motorcycle building stuff. I don't do that stuff anymore. It was very much a part of my life, and I really enjoyed it, and I don't regret 1 minute of it. It allowed me and enabled me to do things I otherwise wouldn't have been able to do, or meet different people. And but I'm in a new season now, and it's really interesting because I was just thinking about this. I've been doing it for like 15 years in my new season. Like the guitar thing it's been almost 15 years full-time professional. I've been doing it for like 30 plus years, but full-time, quit my day job to do that focus for 15 years now. It's crazy for me to think that because it seems like yesterday,
Jeez, man.
One of those things. But yeah, 15 years ago, I left my day job to pursue something that I really had a heart and passion for, outside of motorcycle stuff, outside of my day job stuff. And I don't regret 1 second of it. And it's been really, really great.
Yeah. So 2 questions, I guess, to get us rolling is when did that passion start?
Yeah.
But also, did you grow up in Vermont?
I did.
Okay, cool.
Not far from here. I knew the Chamberlain family for years. Went to school with a few of them over the years. Grew up in Underhill, Vermont, and riding motorcycles. Had my little mini bike. I know you can relate to a lot of that stuff.
Oh, gosh,
I know you both can. And playing music. I was a drummer for years. We talked about that. Played bass guitar, was a guitarist, motorcycles, guitar. I'm seeing a theme here. And that just kind of transposed well into my young adult life. And, but things were a little different. I didn't really pursue motorcycles or guitar at the level that I did later on. I started young with a family. I got married, started having kids, had a full-time professional job. I was an electronics engineer for years. And, I was a graduate of Vermont Technical College. We talked a little bit about that. And it was like a responsibility thing. I didn't know if I could really make money doing bikes or playing music. I never even considered that as being options for me at that stage in my life. And I did that for a long time. And so I think it was in my, I want to say maybe in my mid-20s when I decided that I really wanted to take my music a little bit further. And I really started focusing on guitar playing and stuff like that, and basically did session guitar work for years at a couple of local studios here in Vermont. But that was pretty much it. And always doing the motorcycle building and customizing, just on the side, there's just all that kind of crazy stuff going on. But never really took it seriously because I had my day job and my family and my kids and my wife, just really focusing on that kind of stuff.
Yeah. When did you start playing guitar? When did you start getting interested in that?
Wow. I think I was about 7 years old.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was about 7. And funny story is I didn't have a teacher, and I really wish I had, because I learned some horrible bad habits that I carry right to this day. It's like my playing style is, for a lot of folks when they watch it or see it, or when I study other guitar players, I'm like, wow, I wish I could do that, but I can't because of these bad habits that I taught myself. So I'm kind of self-taught. And the worst thing I did was I never learned how to tune a guitar. Yeah, it was, but I just knew that if I tuned it this way and I strummed it, so I kind of created my own open guitar tunings, and I just kind of learned a lot of my own personal bar chords, and I took that for years, well into my college years, and people would be like, "How and are you making that sound playing that?" And it was just really awkward stuff. And that's what I did. And then I had a friend of mine in college that actually took me aside and said, well, do you want to learn how to truly tune a guitar? I'm like, yes, would you show me? And I never went back, and he showed me how to do that. But it was I was in my 20s at that time, but I learned so many bad habits for 10, 15 years.
I was going to say
horrible.
13 years of tuning your guitar the wrong way.
Yeah. Yeah, it was horrible. And it's really interesting. There's not a day that goes by because, as a full-time professional luthier now, I'm tuning guitars almost every single day of the week. And I think back about those times, of how I used to tune a guitar. You guys are going to laugh at this, but we actually used to have a pitch pipe. He would literally blow in it, and that would be like your reference note. Oh, wow. Yeah. Yeah, those things, I don't even think those are even around anymore.
Not that I've ever tuned a guitar, but I know that's not how I would do it.
No, now it's like all high tech.
Yeah,
it's all digital. You can just clip this little thing on and you're good to go. It's really nice. Yeah.
Wow, that's very interesting.
Yeah. And it's interesting, but kind of sad in a way, because I never felt like I got my guitar playing to a level where I wanted it to be, even now, because I think I wasted so many years younger, doing it wrong. Maybe I'm just using that as an excuse. I don't know, but yeah. And it takes a lot of time and effort, it's interesting. I watch a lot of young guitar players now, especially with YouTube. I mean, that is such an incredible tool to learn. I mean, I will use YouTube to help me learn new things on playing guitar and stuff like that. I'm always like, man, I wish I had that back when I was a kid learning. What could have been my level of guitar playing had I had that? But
what's one of those, we'll say, handicaps of a bad habit that you just can't seem to shake, or
that's a great question. You basically on your left hand have 5 fingers to fret notes. Even your thumb can be included, right? I don't do much of that. So for most guitar players, you got the 4 fingers, for fretting notes and, playing lead guitar or playing different chords, right? But do you see this pinky right here? That is an all-important finger for guitar playing. And very few will use it if they're not instructed to, because it's very weak. It's not the strongest finger in the hand. Most self-taught guitar players won't even use that pinky. I know many that don't, but I know more that do, because they were properly trained early to use that finger for chords and progressions. I never learned that. And I just stuck, I'm a 3-finger fretter, and it's horrible. I mean, I'd really limit myself. And I know there's some really great guitarists out there that are kind of in that same category, but that's rare. So not using the pinky. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry that you weren't involved in my guitar playing life, but I tried. I mean, I'll use it, but I watch guys, I have clients who come in and they're just shredding up and down that fretboard and using full use of that pinky finger. For example, to further answer your question, also like different chordings. I have very weak strength, and I think I have really tiny hands, but I have no control over that. But I know guys who can like stretch out these, these full chords that I really struggle with, because of just physical limitations, if you will. And I don't use my pinky. I'm ashamed of it. I try.
25% less than some people.
Yeah. Do you play, Andy?
No, I played bass. I played with bass in high school for a few years, and that was about it.
Yeah.
Enough to have fun and jam around with my
even on
friends,
the bass, that pinky, you gotta use it. Yeah. I get it.
That's hilarious. Well, okay, so you just saying that put a name in my head. Who's your favorite guitar player?
Oh man,
I know that's an impossible question, but you gotta try
so
for me.
Many good ones. It's interesting because I have, the older I get, the wider my musical taste have grown, if you will. Like there's certain styles of music that I enjoy now that I didn't 10 years ago, for example.
Sure.
But I think when you ask me that question, this is probably going to upset a lot of people, but for me, one of my all-time greatest, I'm going back a number of years here, but there's this dude, his name is Yngwie Malmsteen, Swedish guitar player, neoclassical shredder from the 80s. I would have to say he is my number one all-time greatest, guitar hero, because he is so well-versed in a lot of different, music genres, if you will, but the neoclassical shred that he brought to the table back in the 80s, which he still carries on to this day, I would have to say Yngwie. I knew that would blow your minds. Like, who's this Yngwie?
I have no idea.
Yeah, look him up. He's pretty amazing. I will never be anything close to his technical prowess on the guitar.
Yeah.
But he's amazing. I've seen him live like 5 times. He's just, as from a guitar player standpoint, is just amazing to watch.
Yeah. So you're gonna hate me because I can't for the life of me remember his name.
Yeah.
But when I was young, my parents brought me to a I can't remember the band's name. You gotta be kidding me. No, it's Go Your Own Way. What the heck is the band's name?
Fleetwood Mac.
Fleetwood Mac. Thank you.
I can't believe I did that. Yeah.
And what's his face?
Lindsey Buckingham.
Thank you. Okay.
Okay, he would be my number 2.
Okay, so Lindsey,
Yeah.
I watched Lindsey Buckingham do this solo on a 12-string guitar.
Yeah.
And I was just like, it sounded like there was a band and then some, and it was just him with the guitar, and I was like, that is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard in my life.
He is still an amazing player. It's funny you bring up Lindsey because I'm a huge fan. Probably one of the most underrated players.
Is he really?
Yeah, I really believe that. He never really got a lot of cover. He was never on the cover of Guitar World magazine. If I'm wrong, somebody tell me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But he was never really talked about as a guitar player, but he was always well known for being one of the front guys for Fleetwood Mac.
Interesting.
And but what a strong songwriter.
Yeah.
An amazing songwriter, gifted musician, and he's produced a lot of his own material. I'm a huge fan. In fact, so much so, we actually got to enjoy him live over at the Flynn Theater. Was it the same show?
I went to New York, so this was totally different.
How long ago?
Oh gosh, I was a kid. It was like one of the first concerts that.
Yeah, Lindsey was in town maybe 5 years ago at the Flynn, and I'd never seen Fleetwood Mac or Lindsey perform live. I said, I gotta go.
Dude.
I gotta go. I'm really glad you brought that up because he is really super good.
Still one of the best concerts I think I've ever been to, and I've been to a lot of concerts now.
Yeah.
Where it's like they just had, like, a lot of. Okay, time for me to make people mad. we're a lot of the time in like mainstream music, I think we're losing some of the talent.
Mm-hmm.
And like Fleetwood Mac, that was just a great example of like, wow, everybody that I'm looking at and hearing right now are some of the most talented people I've ever heard.
Oh yeah.
Like just, dude, he was ripping. And like, yeah, his solo albums, while they're weird, like his vocals are interesting, all this stuff, but it's like, it's so cool. Like I love that.
It's unique. It's like when Lindsay comes out, even with the solo stuff, if he has a piece that comes out, it's like you recognize it. That's Lindsay.
Yeah, 100%.
And I always appreciate artists who carry themselves or their music is in such a style that's so unique to themselves that you can pick them out. Like guitar players, like when Yngwie plays, like that's Yngwie Malmsteen. There's very few people that can play like that. He's not the only one doing it, but his style is so unique that you can pick him out. If he starts shredding a solo on anybody's music, it'd be like, that's gotta be Yngwie Malmsteen. And I think Lindsay's a lot like that too, with his guitar playing. He's got that finger picking style that I love so much. Dude, I'm so jealous.
There's like so much happening. There's so much happening.
Yeah. And it's funny, that whole finger picking style, that's something I cannot do. And I have some clients that come in, it's like a treat for me. I love working. I have the opportunity to work on their guitars. And I get so excited working on their guitars because I know they're going to come back and give me a personal private performance in my shop. And it's so fun because I can't wait to just hand them over their guitar and just let them fly with it.
Yeah, you need to test drive that right here.
Yeah, that's right. And if you want to take an hour or two to do that, I'm perfectly fine with that. Literally, that's happened a few times when I'm just sitting back and going, no, keep going. You need to really test that out. Yeah, exactly. I want to make sure that guitar is set up just the way you like it. And it's like a little master class for me. I literally have been so bold to say, hey, can you show me how you play that? It was like, and they're usually pretty open to do that, and I'm always embarrassed too. I say, that lick you just played is so amazing. I was really hoping you could show me how you did that.
That's so rad.
It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. I like that.
But what I love is like some of that music too that we were just talking about, like, and this is due to like TikTok basically.
Yeah.
But Fleetwood Mac is making a comeback right now.
Yeah,
which is crazy.
Yeah,
just like a dude on the skateboard, right?
Yeah.
And it was like a Stevie Nicks tune or something.
It was.
No, I can't think of it.
Yeah, that one.
It just took off.
That one.
That one. Dreams.
Yeah.
Is it Dreams?
Might be.
I don't know. Either way, but they're like making a comeback, and I'm like, how cool is that, dude? Like, like people are like really finding that appreciation again. I think I am.
That music stands the test of time.
Yeah, 100%.
It always will. I remember when I was around when that album came out. By the way, it's such a classic. I mean, you listened any one of like, what is it? Was it the Rumors album? That first one, I think it was. When every track on that was a hit.
Yeah.
Over every single one.
Oh, I missed
And
that.
how many albums can you say that about, right?
Yeah.
And, I don't listen to a lot of the super classic stuff, as an adult now, but when it does come out and you hear it, it's like you got to turn it up, and it transcends time, right? It kind of sends you back to a period in your life, because that would have been like in the 70s, some of the early,
And it's so funny because like I'm like totally an album guy, and I do a lot of work with different bands and stuff, making music videos or whatever. And the bands that I work with now don't make albums. They only make singles,
right?
Because you got New Music Friday on Spotify and you got a week. And then it's gone.
Yeah.
Basically, you know what I mean? And that's their perspective on it. So it's like if you put all this effort into 10 songs and then get it out there, there's going to be like 2-3 good ones that people like, and then the rest are just toast. So they only do singles now, which stinks because I'm such an album guy. Like I just love albums, and those are going away.
You're an old soul.
Yeah, I know. I guess so.
I love that.
But it's like, it's kind of a bummer because like some albums, dude, like, and this is kind of a weird example, but like, and actually Fleetwood Mac did this, but a lot of like rap albums are like stories.
Yeah.
Like 10 tracks that all tie together. And I love that stuff, dude.
Yeah.
I love when there's like a story and a point, like, and everything kind of like weaves together. Like I'm into the storytelling aspect,
Sure.
I think, of music a little bit. And I'm just watching it go away where like people don't, like, for instance, Chainsmokers, they don't do albums. They just do singles now. And that's just the lay of the land now. And I'm kind of bummed a little bit, to be honest. It's like, oh, well, but Anyway.
Well, the music industry is so different, right? Now than it was, with everything gone digital and stuff. What was it, Napster? Do you remember that? But how many years was that? 80s? I don't know. 90s? Like that whole thing, the digital streaming. I mean, when, artists were suing, companies and, they weren't getting paid, it's some crazy stuff. And it seems like there's this whole mentality for free music. That wasn't the way, back in the day, when you were buying LPs and you guys probably don't remember this thing called 8 tracks, but it was like this giant cassette looking thing and you would, anyway, but that's how you got your music. There was no digital streaming and stuff like that. You went to the store and you bought it,
Are you like a record guy at all?
I was a record guy back in the day, back in the Fleetwood Mac days.
Okay,
I mean, that's how you listen to it,
Yeah, that's so cool.
I used to listen to a band called Kiss. Have you guys ever heard of this? Yeah. I mean, during the 70s and 80s, this is, that was kind of like the stuff. And you literally had a record and you went, the needle and the whole bit on your sound design record player, the speakers. And that's how you did it. I'm not so much now. I'm kind of like switched over to the digital age, which is cool. I do all my online streaming of my stuff. But back in the day, it was the LPs, the records, and then that shifted over to, you ready for this? Cassette tapes.
Oh, we love it. We love it.
Oh, yeah. That was, talk about fidelity there. Woo! Man, that's some rough stuff.
I know I keep telling like random stories, but
I love it.
I did this video shoot for Burlington Records, somebody. It wasn't Burlington Record Company. It was somebody else down there.
Yeah.
But it was a drummer for a band, like a Vermont band that doesn't exist anymore. Wayland Speed.
Mm-hmm.
Remember that?
I'm familiar with those guys. Those guys were rocking.
Yeah, dude, they were so good.
They were powerful.
I actually filmed their last show as a group.
Okay, so they're no longer. I didn't know that.
So. Yeah. So, but the drummer, and I forget his name, but the drummer owns a record company.
Okay.
Where he like makes records and all that stuff.
I saw something about that.
Yeah.
And that's an art. I mean, there's very few machines around that do that. That's cool. Yeah.
Yeah. So I filmed the whole process of them doing it, and they make sweet records. Like they aren't like all black. He does designs like with the record. They're so rad. But I shot with him for a few hours and all this stuff. And at the end, he's like, what's your favorite band? I'm like, Blink-182. And he's like, all right, give me a second. He comes out with 4 records. He's like, these are just like Blink-182. You'll love them. I'm like, you're just going to give them to me? He's like, yeah. And I have yet to listen to those records because my brother has a record player and he doesn't live here anymore. But I like cannot wait because there's just something about that I love. Like maybe I am an old soul, man. I'm making myself sound.
I've known you for a while. I would say you are. Sure.
I'm making myself sound old, but
you're an old soul, but you're in the digital age.
I know, how weird is that? But I just love it. I just think it's a cool vibe.
I didn't realize that you got to go down and check that out.
It's so cool.
What a treat that must have been.
Yeah, it was a fun project too.
Yeah, is that even still around?
Yeah, so he's right behind the Bagel Company down in downtown, but like on Pine Street in Burlington. Yeah, that's where everything is.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think he's still plugging away making records.
That's really
neat.
That's really, really cool. And there's a certain quality to that.
It's mechanical.
That recording when you listen to it. Like I have some friends that are total hi-fi buffs, with their LPs and stuff. And they got the old tube, Macintosh amps and the super fancy, super expensive. I mean, in just about all hobbies of life, right? There's that level that you can go to that's beyond the average. I got these guys that are like spending thousands of dollars on equipment to play these old LPs and stuff. And I've actually gone to their homes and listened to some of the stuff. And I'm like, that is absolutely amazing to listen to that. We're not talking digital stuff. We're talking the old analog stuff, pumping through these speakers and it just sounds so amazing. The same thing applies to guitars. I mean, I admit it. I've gone digital with some of my guitar processing equipment because it's convenient.
Right.
But there's nothing that's going to replace that Marshall half stack, old tube stack. I've still got a bunch of old tube amps, and I will probably have them forever because they have a certain sound and a certain quality to them. It really ties in with with the records thing. I mean, it's hard to beat. It really is. Yeah.
Yeah. It's just special.
Yeah. Not convenient.
Yeah, but special.
By any stretch of the means. It's hard to listen to that in your car.
Yeah. Fair enough.
Let me get that record back here. Yeah, that sounds
on
good.
demand.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah.
You wrote something down on your phone.
I did. Yeah,
I don't want to step
take
all
a few
over
notes.
you.
Oh no, has he got notes?
All right.
I know. Notes aren't allowed. That shouldn't be allowed.
What's your favorite genre, either to listen to or play?
That's a good question. I was wondering if you were going to react when I said Blink-182, but
I have to say yes. 2 thumbs
Dude,
up.
freaking punk
They've been
rock,
around
dude.
for a while. I've seen them live. I think it was over at Soulfest. They've no,
there's no way they were at
They were
Soulfest.
not. I'm thinking, you know what? That was a little embarrassing. No, there's another band that has a very similar name to their. No, Blink-182 was never at Soulfest, although they should be.
I know, that'd be rad.
that would be sure. We just got to change some of the lyrics around. But Blink-182, oh yeah, Tom DeLonge, all those guys, man, some really cool stuff.
It's on my bucket list to see them live, but now Tom's been gone for how many years, so I missed that opportunity. But
Yeah, they. What is it? Travis Barker on drums,
that's
right?
my guy.
Yeah, man, that stuff is so good.
Gosh, it's good.
And
Just
they pulled
punk
it off
rock
with
will never die.
There's
Yeah.
3 dudes, man, just pouring it out, just pouring it out. I think they all even had signature guitars.
Oh, for sure.
Travis has probably signature drum sticks or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm a huge fan. Sorry for the mix-up in my head. I'm getting old. It's you got
Wishful thinking, but
There's a
that's
little
all right.
grace. You gotta have a little grace here. Yeah, I'm a big fan too. I wish they were still doing stuff because I think it would rock.
Well, they're still doing a little.
Are they writing
never-
new stuff though?
They came out with a new album. Man, it was the last thing they posted was like a song from Quarantine. So in the last couple of years, but we'll see.
All right.
They're touring over in Europe right now. I'm waiting for them to come back to the States.
They still got the magic.
It's Blink-182. I think they're great. Like,
Yeah.
the guy who replaced Tom is a bit of an oddball, but it's all right. What are you gonna do?
What are you gonna do?
It's just like seeing him sing like their 1999 stuff. I'm like, oh man, but whatever. It is what it is.
Right.
I'll take it. I just want to see him in
You
concert.
take it. To answer your question, it's changed over the years. I'm a Christian rock guy now. I have been for the last 20 years, which sounds weird to me, even to me, that I gave my life over to Christ 20 years ago. But there's an interesting story that goes along with that. I have to share it. My wife, who's been a lifelong Christian, she was, when we would be in the car together and she was driving, the rule was she could play whatever the drivers, had the call on what was being played. Little did I know that I think it was the radio station was Air One. So they were playing a lot of rockin' Christian contemporary rock stuff, but I didn't know what I was listening to at the time. And this was before I became a Christian. And I was like, I never heard this song before. This is really cool. And I'm like jamming out to it. And she wouldn't tell me what it was. and I would have been fine with it if she did, but I was listening to it and it was funny because I didn't know what I was listening to, but I just knew I really liked it. And then I got to learn more about the bands and what was going on and the message behind the song. So I would have to say within the last 20 years, it's been like a Christian rock thing. I mentioned Soulfest, which I love going to. I haven't been in a few years because I'm getting old, but I just don't have the energy to go. But prior to that, and that's not to say that I still don't love listening to some of those old classic rock stuff that I grew up on. So for genre, it would have to be the hard rock scene from the 70s and 80s. I mean, because that's what I grew up on. Led Zeppelin, Black Sabbath, the list goes on, Aerosmith, all that stuff. That a lot of that music, if that stuff comes on the radio, I have to turn it up. It's good stuff. I mean, I grew up on that stuff, but the last 20 years and stuff, I've really grown to appreciate a lot of the Christian rock stuff that's coming out. I have my shop stereo cranking the Christian rock stuff. I mean, I love the digital streaming. I can kind of like tailor my own radio station, if you will. So that's really a lot of fun. And I really like that. I'm trying to think of the band that makes me think of Blink-182, because there's a Christian rock band that has this Blink-182 kind of vibe.
I would love it. Yeah.
Yeah, I will dig that up and I'll send you some links, because I think you'll get into it. You'll be like, wow, this is really good.
Oh, 100%.
Because it's totally that vibe,
Yeah. Well, who else do you like in that Christian rock scene? Like,
that's a great question. Mercy Me, this is really great stuff. Some of the stuff.
That lead singer's voice.
Yeah.
Is so
I know,
Man,
right?
it's good.
It's so good. I love Mercy Me. I mean, I'm going to throw some band names out that you guys may know, like DC Talk. I don't know if that's one you've heard of them.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's some really good stuff. That's old school. I'm going to throw one out here. You've never heard of this band, I'm sure, but if you have, it'll really impress me.
Okay.
Striper.
No.
But they had like a...
Heard of it.
Yeah, Striper is... this is really
One of the
early Christian rock.
original-
Yeah, original Christian rock stuff. Like, and they were like filling arenas. I mean, it was
Wow.
pretty amazing. And those guys are they're still around. They do some tours and stuff. I actually got to see Striper live about 10 years ago at this little club in New York somewhere.
Yeah.
And actually got to meet some of the members of the band. I was a bit of a fan. Anybody who's listening or watching this podcast, look them up. I'm hoping that somebody who's listening or watching can relate to Striper. That's good. That's good stuff. And they're still doing stuff, and I think that's really awesome. I love some of the new stuff that they're coming out with as a band. I'm trying to think of some other ones. I'm just totally drawing a blank.
About 10 years ago, I completely absorbed Skillet.
Skillet, thank you for bringing that up. They've been at Soulfest a few times.
Yeah, I'm
Superpower. That's a power rock Christian band for you right there. And by the way, it's funny, Skillet, their lead guitar player, I don't know the dude's name, but when he plays a solo, like how many Christian, like when you listen to rock music in general, even these days, there doesn't seem to be room for a guitar solo. That was like a 70s and 80s, maybe 90s thing. But if you listen to anything that was produced in 2000 and beyond, it seems that was getting a lot of airplay. Where's the guitar? Where are the guitar solos? What happened to the guitar solos, right? That doesn't apply to all the music, but there was a good portion of it. I was missing the guitar solos. Skillet has guitar solos. Even in their new stuff. That guy is so amazing. Like if I had to learn one of his guitar lead parts, I'd be like, forget it. It's not happening. He's so good. Never seen them live. Although they've played over at Soulfest. You ever seen them perform?
No.
Yeah, it's good stuff. I'm really glad you brought up Skillet, because that is good stuff. There's some other bands. I'm just drawing a blank on some of the names and stuff. And then unfortunately what happens there, I think, is I'm streaming this stuff and I'm like, ooh, that's really good. And I don't take the time to look over my shoulder and say, who is that? Because that's really good. I need more of that, kind of thing.
Oh, I feel that too. Yeah.
Yeah, you know what I mean, though?
I know a lot of good music. I can't tell you who
it's
sang
if you
it or
heard
what
it,
it's called.
It's funny to kind of tie in with that. There was a band over at Soulfest that we were watching, and I was listening to the music, and I'm like, oh, wait a minute, I know this song. You know what I mean?
Oh, that's the band.
Oh, yeah, right. I'm putting a band to the song. It's like I was like looking over to my wife, Julie. I was like, babe, I know this song. It's so good. It's like I know this. They stream this on my radio station all the time. Yeah, that kind of thing. Yep.
Well, I'll tell you what. I'm trying to find. I had the opportunity to film. Oh gosh, what the heck is it called? Winter Jam.
Oh,
Winter
yeah,
Jam?
yeah.
Yeah. Which is, they have everybody there as a headliner, and there's like 7 of them.
Yeah.
And it was so funny. One of the openers was, I brought my dad, right? I was filming. My dad went and sat in the thing because I was like 15, 16, 17, so I didn't want to like drive to Pennsylvania on my own, and
that's pretty
I couldn't
awesome.
get my own hotel room, and it was
Sure,
this whole thing, right?
Yeah.
And I just remember there was this one just heavy rock band that opened, just heavy, and I wish I could find them.
Is it the Letter Black?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, it's like now the
Now
band
they're
names
coming.
are coming to me. Letter Black, I'm a huge fan. They're really hardcore, heavy Christian rock, and I actually got to meet all the band members one year. Was introduced to them at I think it was Soul Fest, and I began following them online. Next thing you know, they're playing at some water park in New Hampshire. Julie and I literally got on the motorcycle and we did a day trip out there to go. It was like a Splashwater Kingdom kind of place.
Yeah.
I can't remember the name of the place, but they were actually performing a live show there. And one of the opening bands was called Sidewalk Prophets. Now you might have heard of those guys.
Yep.
Super powerful show from those guys.
Oh,
and
I
we've
bet.
seen them like at least 2 or 3 times live. Huge respect for that band from a performance and a songwriting effort. Those guys are really great too. They've performed here in Vermont at least a dozen times.
Yeah.
Cool stuff.
Well, all that to say, I wish I could find that name.
I
But
probably have heard of them.
you probably have.
Yeah.
But it
Yeah.
was just so funny because like that was one of the first openers that came out, and I was like, oh no, I'm gonna lose my dad. He's like not gonna let me come to one of these things again.
Yeah.
All this stuff because they were like heavy.
Yeah.
And after the show, he's like, I just want to listen to them. He was his favorite band that was on.
That is
and I mean,
awesome.
I mean, Crowder was the headliner
Oh,
that year.
yeah,
like,
that's great stuff, yeah.
Phil something.
Phil Tomlin?
What the heck is his name? Whatever. Like tons of. I mean, Andy
Yeah.
Mineo was there, so I was kind of stoked. But just a ton of different bands that were like really good, and
Yeah.
that was his favorite. I was just like, that doesn't make any sense.
That's
Like,
pretty
it
awesome.
was
I
so
love that
funny.
story.
Yeah.
I love that story. There's a band, it's a female, she's a female singer. Her name is she goes by Zana, right?
Okay.
And her stuff and the band is just so amazing. It's pretty hardcore, but it's so powerful. I love it. It's really funny because, at Soulfest, they've got it, the Christian Music Festival is they got the main stage. They got like a dozen stages, right? And music's going on and they have different genres. It's really funny because Julie and I always feel like we're the oldest people at this thing, and we're over at the headbanging tent. The hard, more hard, the more harder edge stuff. And it's like, it's so funny. I love that she and I got to, get to enjoy that kind of style of music together. And I think for me, has a lot to do with the fact that genre is a lot about that sound and energy is what I grew up on.
Yeah.
They have the energy of Led Zeppelin, Aerosmith, and all this stuff, and they're just rocking it out for Jesus, and I love that. In this, of course, I gotta have it loud, and they don't disappoint over there. That's for sure.
All right, I got it.
Okay.
1,000 Foot Crush.
Oh yeah! Oh man! Yeah.
TFK.
Those guys are amazing. I hate to keep saying this, but I saw them live over at Soulfest.
I did too.
Yeah,
I saw them live.
Yeah,
That's hilarious.
Yeah, that's some good stuff. Yeah, they are hard. I wonder if we were at the same show because they've
Could've
only
been.
done that once.
Really?
I bet we were at the same tent. Yeah,
Oh, that's hilarious.
It was under a tent, right?
Well, no. So I'm talking about Winter Jam. So this was in a
I am
stadium
so
in
sorry.
Pennsylvania.
You did say that. Yeah, they were over at Soulfest too. Yeah.
It's so rad. I've never been to Soulfest, and I'm dying to go. Like,
Yeah, it's good.
yeah. I've also always wanted to see For King and Country in concert because I just hear they're awesome.
It's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, just like the drums and everything they do
Yeah.
apparently is pretty dope.
Yeah. And it's interesting. Like, how certain bands will have a certain energy live, a certain sound and energy when you go see them live versus listening to a studio cut.
Right. Yeah.
And some bands, they can cross that over pretty smoothly. In other words, like, I really had a hard time listening to the studio cut, but when I watch them live, it's like it's a whole different thing, 1,000 Foot Crutch is interesting because I think they carry that energy from the studio cuts to the stage.
Yeah, it's
and
cool.
I love that. I
Yeah.
love that. Great musicians too.
Yeah.
I would love to. I'll be honest with you. If I could do it all over again, I would like. As a kid, I would have learned how to tune a guitar. Okay, step one.
Step one, yeah.
Step one, learn how to tune that guitar. To practice, like shred like the
Use your pinky.
like using my pinky. I would really have a super trained pinky and train really hard to become the lead guitarist for Skillet.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, that would be it, right?
Yeah.
I would be all set.
Did you like playing bands growing up at all, or?
I did. But I didn't like it.
Okay, well.
I didn't like it. So I don't have a lot of band experience, although I did play in some bands. It's funny because I was playing at a very young age. I started off as a drummer, although I was playing bass and guitar on the side, but my main thing was the drums. So we had I think my first band, I wasn't even in high school. I was just getting ready to become a freshman in high school. So that would have put me at like maybe 14 or 15 years old. And I was playing with other teenagers that were like seniors in high school. So I was like this little scrawny little kid on the drums playing with at that time, playing kids that were like 3 or 4 years older than you was pretty extreme. I mean, they seemed so much older than me at the time. And we played a lot of the rock classics and stuff, and we actually played at like school dances, so that was fun. That was. I mean, what else were you gonna do, right? This would have been late 70s, early 80s, and when I got older, I played in a college band, and graduated from school, did the whole family thing that we talked about, and I wasn't the kind of guy to play in a band, and I tried it to be playing out at clubs and stuff, at bars, and because that's what you did. I mean, if you were going to be a musician and doing something local, you would be playing at bars and stuff. It just never sat well with me. It was just the bar scene just wasn't me, and I tried it a few times, and it was just a scene that I wasn't comfortable with, and I just didn't enjoy it. And it became less about the music and about other things, and I basically pulled the plug really early. And other guys do it and they love it and it's fun and that's great for them, but it just wasn't me. But I really wanted to play. And that's when I hooked up with some friends who were starting up a recording studio. And for like 15 years or more, I was like their session guitar player. And what that meant was when bands would come in or artists would come in and they needed a guitar part or what have you, I would come in. I was just one of a few guitar players that they had on a roster to come in and play a certain solo or a guitar part and track it out in the studio. And I love that. And cool. What was really interesting, it was a band formed from that. So, I was like one of the session guitarists. They had a session bass player, session drummers. And you kind of like connected with a few, from working in a studio. And it was like, hey, we should do something, and we actually got together and we put a little band together and we played one date at a bar. And against all of my wishes, but it meant going out. And I think it was videotaped, and I'm trying to find that because this would have been in the 90s. And so there's one videotape of me playing with this band. I'm trying to dig it up. I know it's around somewhere. And I hope I can find it. But what was fun, it was just all of us session guys from the studio putting together this band, and I thought we were pretty good. We did some good stuff. And what was really funny is we decided to just put together a 5-song set, if you will, of all originals. It was a lot of fun. We had a lot of fun with that. I really want to find that recording. And it's funny because I know you guys are into recording. Like, this would have been 90s.
Yeah, right.
Imagine the equipment now. I remember it being produced and put together, and it was handed to me on like what seemed like a VHS tape. Yeah. Do you know what that is?
Yeah, I do know what they are. Yeah.
Okay. I think it's still on VHS. I don't know.
Oh, that's a hard one to find then.
Yeah. I don't even know if I could play it on. Where would I find a machine to play it on, right?
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's awesome.
Right?
So, okay. Because what came first, the motorcycle thing or the guitar hospital?
That's a great question. Totally the motorcycle thing.
All right, let's talk about the motorcycle thing.
So the motorcycle thing,
chapter.
The chapter.
You
the
addressed
season,
it as a chapter.
The
Yeah,
season in my
whatever.
life.
Season.
It was basically me, like, in my shop, I have welding equipment. I'm like a total nerd with tools and metal fabrication and all that stuff. It's been a part of my life since I was a little kid. Welding in my neighbor's garage at 10 years old. We didn't know what we were doing. It was just crazy. The old stick welder, and we had no idea what we were doing, but all we knew was we could stick metal together with this machine that his dad had. Little did he know that we were like totally in there doing that stuff. Yeah, it was pretty dangerous too. We could have died, when I think about it, right? So that's where that all started. And fast forward, a number of years, it never really stopped. I was always, tinkering with motorcycles, like, oh, wow, this would be really cool if I could take this stock motorcycle and stretch it out, make the forks, like rake out the forks, make a chopper out of it. And, I used to get those chopper magazines and stuff, and I thought that was really cool. The Easy Rider movie, all that kind of stuff was really cool to me. And so I was taking motorcycles and just making them my own. Prior to that, as a kid growing up, it was like bicycles, so it just kind of migrated up. But we would take bicycles, take a bunch of different forks off the bicycles and stack them together, weld them all up. We'd make these big crazy chopper bicycles. Fast forward to adulthood, I was just doing that with motorcycles, and it was just a lot of fun. It was just a really fun hobby for me. And I would make these really cool motorcycles, all tricked out, and I would take it to another level. Like everything I do, I just take it to a whole, my wife laughs at me because whenever I do something, I'm 110%, you know what I mean? Yeah. It's almost to a fault. Right. And, so I was doing it with motorcycles to the level where I was like stretching out, raking them out, and putting hydraulics on, because I was seeing them on. This was, by the way, I got to tell you, this was all during American Chopper phase.
Yeah, right.
Okay, right. American Chopper hit the scene with this, and this was all going. I was doing that long before that was even a show, but now I had a TV show I could watch that was doing the stuff that I loved.
Right up your alley.
Right up my alley. So I was a huge fan because I could get what they were doing, and so that just fueled my fire even more. I was like, ooh, that was a cool idea. I want to do that. And they were doing stuff where they were like putting hydraulic lift systems on motorcycles, like making slam to the ground, all this stuff, which really was a takeoff of what they were doing for years in the car,
Monster
in
garage
southern, what is it,
stuff.
West Coast, the West Coast scene with the cars,
Customs,
hopping around, all this stuff. It was a spin-off of that. I get it. And I was like, oh, that is cool. I thought it would be super slick if I had my own personal motorcycle. When I pull in to, get some gas, and I hit a button and it goes, no kickstand, right? That whole bit.
Wow, that'd be cool.
And that's what really, I was like, I got to have a bike. So I made a bike that did that. And it was so awesome. I loved it. And my wife and I drove that thing around like a daily driver. It was it was so cool. It was just fun to pull into a parking lot, because, the biker scene was like, we don't do this now, but there was a time where there was little hangouts, right?
Yeah,
You knew where they were, where all the bikers got together,
right?
And you just hung out, and it was fun to just pull in and we had the only bike. Yeah. We had the only bike that when you went to go park it, you weren't throwing down a kickstand, you were hitting a button and the thing was slamming down on the ground. It was so cool. We loved that. All right. What had happened was, so this is leading up to the motorcycle thing. It was right around that period. I was taking pictures of the bike and stuff, and I was posting them online in forums, motorcycle forums. This is long before MySpace and subsequently, which then Facebook came out. This was before all those times. Because if it was around, 2000s. I would have been putting that on those kind of social media pages. But that wasn't around at the time. So, but at that time, it was like motorcycle forums, right? That kind of thing. So I was posting them on there. What had happened was this TV series for ESPN was going to be doing a motorcycle build-off, which was kind of like a takeoff from what Discovery Channel was doing with their, what is it, the American Build Off or something like that. But they were going to do metric motorcycles because nobody was doing that. They were all doing it on US motorcycles, the Harley Davidsons, S&S, that kind of thing. But nobody was doing anything tricked out on metrics, which was what I was doing. So I was contacted by a producer of this TV show called The Metric Revolution. And I thought it was a joke at first because I was an email. I thought my buddies were like pranking me, like, because they knew I would like, oh man, if I was on one of those shows, I would kick their butt, that kind of thing. It was a lot of smack talk. And I thought they were totally pranking me. But I got this random email from a producer saying, hey, I'm doing this TV show and I found some of your bikes that you've been building online. Would you be interested in auditioning for the show? And I'm thinking, yeah, right. I'm not even going to respond. It's like, I'm going to like go to work and I'm going to like, I'm going to say, you guys are busted. That phony email, come on. And they're like, they had no idea what I was talking about. So, hey, maybe I should get back to this guy. Anyway, long story short, I ended up calling the guy and it was legit. And I said, I would really want to audition for the show.
Sorry, I thought it was a scam.
I told them all that. Yeah. And we're actually, and that was many years ago and we're still good friends.
That's cool.
And we still joke about it. It's like, yeah, I'm really glad you followed up with me.
That's awesome.
So that's what happened. I auditioned for the show. I was much younger, very energetic and very ambitious. And I knew that, and I was very blessed to have a wife that was so supportive because it meant being part of that TV series meant like your life kind of like, as you know it, kind of stopping for a little bit. Cause it was a 6-month build off competition and they were going to film it the entire, the 6 months. And, it wasn't like a 2-week build, it was like 6 months. I had a day job and a lot of the people that I was competing against at that time, were kind of doing it full time, even though it was considered the, kind of like an entry level kind of thing. But I just went into it 110% and, I said, I'm in. And so the next 6 months of my life was being part of this production company, coming to my home, filming for this TV series and, watching me build this bike. And I knew going into it that if I didn't give it 110%, like I didn't want to lose. In other words, I really wanted to say at the end, if I did lose, I was like, well, I gave it my all. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I didn't
If you're going to do it, you're going to
if you're going to do it, you're going to do it. Right. If I'm going to like leave my day job to do this, I got to give it my all. And that's what I did. And, I'm really grateful for that time. And, I don't regret doing it. It was a lot of fun. I got to meet a lot of really cool, great people. A lot of the big name builders at that time, I got to meet through that process, and I don't regret any of it. It was a lot of work, but it was a lot of fun. It was a really cool experience. So long story short, we ended up doing that, and we came away with a first place win on the show, which was great. And unfortunately, there was no season 2. It was sad because I was invited back as the winner of that season 1. It was, in fact, it's still online if you ever want to watch it. But on the final episode was like, how would you like to come back for season 2 to compete? And I was like, I'm in. It was, it's like, yeah. And I think my wife was probably rolling her eyes when that was going. Right. They should have cut to her face like, oh no, not again. So the season 2 never happened, unfortunately. I'm not sure what happened, but it was right around that time when the whole motorcycle build-off craze was just, the ratings weren't what they, it was on the tail end of it. It was really interesting because when American Chopper came out, there was like 5 other series that were riding right alongside of it. And, but it could only last so long, that whole craze, and stuff. I still think there's a little bit of that. There's a little bit of hype and there's still a market for that, but not at the level where they were going to invest into putting in another series, which is too bad because I would I would have won first place, just for the record. For that one too, right?
Did you have ideas in your mind what you would do next?
Yeah. In fact, I was so excited to be part of that. I thought I would get a jump start that I actually pursued, design stages of my next build, and it was going to be righteous. I still think about it. I actually have a lot of those designs and stuff, and actually was collecting parts and putting some stuff together to pull that off. And because I thought for sure it was going to happen, but it never did. I ended up just selling all that stuff.
Well, I was going to ask, what happened to the bike?
The winning bike, which was the SmackDown motorcycle, I ended up selling it. I had to. It was a cool bike, and I have, at the end of the day, I kind of wish I kept it for this reason. It was so cool. And that bike, despite a lot of speculation, like people would go to the motorcycle shows that we were attending, and the first words out of their mouth was, you can't even ride it, because it was a full hydraulic suspension motorcycle, which there was only a handful of those in the country at the time. Mine was one of them. And what that meant was, not only did it have the hydraulics in the back, but the front end was hydraulic as well. And what that meant was, when you drop that thing to the ground, the frame was literally touching the ground.
Yeah.
I mean, I had little aluminum spacers down there. It wasn't like metal on asphalt.
Right.
But it was completely dropped to the ground. And for the casual observer looking at the motorcycle when it was parked, it's like, yeah, there was zero ground clearance. Yeah. You're right. You can't ride it like that. But then you would air it up and they would be like, oh, I get it. That kind of thing. But I sold it at the time because I couldn't even imagine cruising around Vermont roads with that thing. I mean, it had like a 6-inch suspension. It would have managed. It would have been fine. Like during my test rides, it did well. It was good. But it did have a rather severe like turn radius on it. There was probably some corners in Vermont. It turned like a semi truck, but it was fun. It was a lot of fun.
The whole rake angle discussion.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. It was that whole physics thing. She rode great. It was awesome. And it was certainly a head turner. But at the time, it had like this incredibly expensive paint job on it that didn't even have a scratch, even after like touring with the motorcycle for 2 years on the road, like going to different bike shows, sponsored shows, which was great. But I just couldn't like see it becoming a daily driver. And I didn't want to be the guy that put that first scratch on it, that kind of thing. And otherwise it was just going to be this, art ornament in my shop, and it was just taking up space. So I made the decision, just put it online and selling it. So that was just a long-winded answer to your question there. So we ended up selling it. I didn't want to, but it had to go.
Well, I'll tell you what, one of my goals in life is to have a dirt bike in the house. It is like, I want one in my office.
Yeah.
I want it to be meaningful. I want it to be cool. I want one in my house. Like
to look at.
Yeah. So for instance, I was just in California this weekend at this big manager's house, and he has 2 bikes in his office. One is Jeremy McGrath's, which is one of the best. They call him the king. He was like one of the best that ever lived.
Yep.
And then the other one was Villapoto's, who he manages and was one of the greats. You know what I mean? And I'm like, I have to have a bike in my house when I get older, dude. I feel like that'd be so cool. But I was wondering if that was one of those things for you.
Hanging on a wall kind of thing? Like, because it's art to you, right?
Yeah, exactly.
You don't just like riding them and flying off of, these super jumps and stuff.
No, I'm all in.
You're all in. It's like you just like when you sit back after a ride and you look at your bike, you go, yeah, that's sweet.
Yeah, no,
you love
100%.
to just look at it too, right?
Yeah, if you go in my studio, I have jerseys up on the wall. I have number plates up on the wall. I'm about to start doing prints in there because I feel like I need to do more of those.
Yeah.
But I want a bike in my house one day. And I was just wondering if that was one of those things for you where you just like, I'm
actually.
not,
Yeah. There's a place in Vermont where they actually have I think it's an old Indian motorcycle, like attached to the side of a barn. It's in like Jonesville or something like that.
Yes.
You know what I'm talking about, right?
It is in Jonesville.
Yeah, it has been there longer than I've been alive, which is a long time. It is crazy because I look at that bike, I'm thinking, surely somebody can restore that and like ride it because like it needs to be more than art. But now I totally get what you're saying. It's like you get so connected to something that you enjoy just looking at it. I think that applies to like guitar building. A lot of times when I'm building a guitar, sure, it's all about the function and, you know, the playing perfection of it, you know, making an instrument that literally almost plays itself. Like you just need to guide it through the motions. I always feel like a good, properly tuned or built guitar does that. In other words, you're not fighting anything. It's like that guitar is so perfect in every way that all you got to do is like just go through the motions. You're not fighting action, string action, and all this other business. So like it's effortlessly, right? But at the same time, I want to build guitars that are so aesthetically pleasing to look like you just want to hang it on the wall and just stare at it all day.
That's how I feel about snowmobiles.
Right?
We all have our thing.
I slept on one growing up as a kid. Dad brought a 68 Arctic Cat Panther in platform on where the seat went, and I slept on it. And then he actually brought my kitty cat, the little kid's snowmobile, in my bedroom during the summer months.
I love it.
Yeah.
You will carry that with you for the rest of your life. I think that's really awesome. I totally get it. It's funny you bring up the sledding thing because, you know, it's that time of year.
Yeah, I'm getting excited.
That time of year. The old trails are going to be, you know, we just got to pray for a lot of snow for that kind of stuff, right? I totally got into the whole like snowcross kind of stuff. Like I wanted the Ski-Doo Rev? Was it the Rev? Yeah. I just thought that was a really badass sled.
It was cutting edge.
Yeah, right? And I would watch all those like X Games stuff and they were doing crazy flips on sleds.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And it's one thing to be it's crazy to be doing on a bike, but to be doing on a sled, that's a whole different thing.
600-pound machine.
Yeah, oh yeah. Yeah, I mean, they're not as nimble, I don't think. They're just so bulky, right? Even the lightweight racing versions of that. I had a Rev when they first came out, and I loved that thing. It was amazing. I wish I still had it, and I miss sledding, and I want to get back into it. And I really hope my wife's not listening or watching this because she would not be down with that. She thought I was a little crazy out there. She thought,
110%. Come on.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Like we got her a sled too. It was a MXZ. Yeah. It was a pretty sporty sled. And I gave her credit because she got out there on the trails with me and stuff, but she would see the stuff that I was doing. And trust me, it wasn't much, but to her, it was like, you're crazy. And I'm like, nah, that was
flying 30 mile an hour through the trees in the wintertime.
Yeah, that's fun, right? That's fun. But I wasn't like catching huge air and stuff, you know. I just like really being aggressive on the trails and stuff. That's just a lot of fun.
Oh, it's the best.
It is the best.
I blew out my suspension on my snowmobile growing up every single winter. Every single winter. I have a dirt bike track in my yard. Do you think I wasn't going to ride the snowmobile on the thing?
You did what to the...
I would blow out the suspension like every year.
Oh, the suspension?
Yeah.
Like the shocks and stuff would be
they
gone?
would just be toast. Yeah. So I finally got air forks, so when I blew them, I could just pump them back up with air.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So you're a big sledder in the winter too? Yeah.
I was. Yeah. My dad sold our snowmobiles last winter without telling me while I was gone. I went on a trip and came back and they were gone and I was so mad, but it's fine. I'm over it, sort of. Maybe I'll get another one at some point in my life.
This is some family therapy might be in order there. That was hardcore.
That one hurt us all.
It was rough. It was Andy sent me the listing of my snowmobile.
I'm like, what's going on here?
And I was like, you got to be kidding me. And I call like
he was
everybody.
gone.
And by the time I called, it was sold. I was like, I can't believe that. But
not cool.
Yeah, it was not cool. But I loved it, dude.
It must have took a lot for you to send that to me.
Yeah, you know,
like,
I'm just scrolling on Marketplace and I'm like, gosh, that looks familiar. And then I zoom in, I'm like, no, I know that sled. And then I, took a screenshot and sent it to Cam, who's whoever in Virginia or something. I'm like, what the hell, dude? I thought you were going to ride with me.
I was in Texas, actually.
So you were just as upset.
Yeah, I was pissed.
Yeah. But I get it. With what I'm doing now, I'm not here in the winter. I'm gone every single weekend. It's like, when am I going to go? I went snowboarding once last year.
Yeah, you're not going to have, you just don't have the time.
I'll get over it. I'll get over it.
Yeah.
Over it.
Good.
I'm over it.
Good.
Anyway.
Good.
to loop back on,
Yeah, we're all
topic.
over the place. I love that.
That's great.
Yeah.
I love
Yeah.
sleds. We could talk about that all day. But
Yeah.
so bike building, obviously that was a career move. You quit your day job.
Oh yeah, I was wondering what your day job was.
Yeah. Oh,
Sorry,
I was an electromechanical engineer in the semiconductor industry. And I did that for like 30 years. It was just crazy. Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah. I basically traveled all over the world, to different semiconductor manufacturing facilities, IBM,
Real
Motorola, Siemens.
Nerdy, exciting
Yeah,
stuff.
super nerdy. And I got to tell you, it's amazing how long you can do something and not like it. And I was that guy. So when I see you guys doing stuff that you enjoy, keep doing that. Because I grew up in a generation and a cultural mindset, you do this because, you got to provide, and that's all good stuff. But doing something that you don't love or have some level of passion for, that just makes for a very long, hard life, and life is too short. And the older I get, the more I realize that. So yeah, I was that guy for 30 years, almost pushing 30 years before I decided that I want to do something that I love and I have a passion for, and I always felt I was really good at. The motorcycle thing, I felt that way about. However, logic was telling me in the state of Vermont, and I have kids here, there was some logistics there. I was like, in Vermont, I wasn't going to make a good go of it, but I loved the whole guitar thing. And I felt like I was really good at it. So during all that time on the side, I was like still building guitars, for myself. And I had a few under my belt that I was building, and I was like helping friends out, like
ground up, not just modifying.
Yeah. When I say
building
building,
a guitar.
yeah. I'm really glad you brought that up. I mean, I'm talking like cutting a tree down and building a guitar out of it.
Yeah. Wow.
Not like it didn't start that way. I mean, I would be the guy that would buy a guitar body online, that kind of thing, and
Kitting them together. Yeah.
Oh yeah, exactly. Or like. And I did this for years. I would like take that guitar neck and put it on that guitar body, and it'd be like the coolest thing ever. I did that for years as a kid. That was in the 80s. I mean, everybody was doing that kind of stuff. I mean, I think of Eddie Van Halen, with his Franken guitar, which is very famous. So yeah, I was doing that kind of thing. And doing guitar repair for friends and stuff. I remember I was doing like this session stuff for studios. So, your name kind of gets around, like saying, hey, I know somebody that can fix that, that kind of thing. And again, I was still working a full-time job, stuff that I was doing on the side. It's interesting. The stuff that you do on the side is probably the thing you should be doing all the time. Right? And I remember a church service where that was being talked about. Is that thing you're thinking about when you're at work in your cubicle, that's probably what you should be doing. And I was funny because I remember hearing that going, oh yeah, I know exactly what he's talking about. Because I would literally be, on a test floor at IBM, wrenching on this, this wafer, probing tool, if you will, and thinking, I am getting absolutely nothing out of this. I'm getting no joy. I'm getting no satisfaction.
While you're daydreaming about.
Yeah, and I was literally, I couldn't wait to get out of there so I could get home and start working on that guitar, that kind of stuff. So, so that's pretty much how that all came about. And I was like, well, I really think I could, make a go of this. And I really like doing it. And that was like almost 15 years ago. And I remember sitting down with my wife at the time and saying, I said, babe, it was interesting because at that time I was like talking to a lot of my IBM friends who were they were of retirement age. I was a number of years away from retirement age, talking to them, and the different stories I was hearing. I'm going to retire, but I don't know what I'm going to do. Or I work so hard for retirement, and now I'm dealing with all of this, this really heavy life stuff, and it just started, thinking about. Man, I don't want to be that guy who's coming up to retirement age and I can't wait to retire, for whatever reason. It's like, I just want to do something that I really love and enjoy and give that a go. And it turned out to be this whole guitar thing. And I was doing repairs on the side for friends and stuff and doing guitar builds for myself. And I thought I'd give it a go. But the old 100%, 110% Tommy, both. So I remember sitting down with my wife. I said, our kids were older. They were getting close to moving. We were going to be empty nesters, as they say. And we were at a stage where I was like, maybe we can give this a go. What do you think? And we were at a stage in our lives where we could give it a go. It was risky, but I always had that safety net of knowing I could always go back, kind of thing. And, after giving it a go, and if it failed, I could always go back to doing, electromechanical work, my day job. And I'm happy to say I never had to think about doing that because and a lot of it has nothing really to do with me or anything like that. I really credit God for this and the support of the local, people here in Vermont. The minute I opened my doors full time to doing this, they just started coming in, and it never stopped. And it's been doing that for like 15 years.
That's really interesting because you were, talking about bikes. You're like, no, there's no opportunity here. Well, I wouldn't think there would be opportunity to be a guitar doctor either. But
there is. And and it's really funny you say that because I wasn't sure.
Yeah.
But I have a really close friend of mine who is a local, what I would call a local legend. His name is Andre McCara. I'm going to just say his name right now. But I remember going to him, and he was playing in some very successful bands, namely 8084. I'm going to do some total name dropping here. Mm-hmm. And and he was a friend of mine. And it was, oddly enough, I knew of him because I was such a fan of the band growing up. Here in Vermont and stuff in the 80s and stuff. And I remember talking to him and saying, hey, I'm thinking about doing this because I was doing some guitar work for him. I said, do you think I could, make a go of this? If there was anybody to ask, it would be him. Super well connected in the community with guitars, and super well known as a guitarist and a really great guy. And I'll never forget him looking in the eye and saying, Tommy, I think you can more than do well with this. And that was a lot of encouragement that I needed at that time. And I said, well, I just needed that extra stick in the fire to really, I'm doing this. And I did. And I'm here to tell you, I wasn't sure. But on Andre's word, he says, yeah, you're going to be plenty busy. And there's a number of guys doing this kind of stuff. It's just nonstop. Guitar repair in Vermont, if you do it well and you treat people fairly, they'll just keep coming back for more. And I've been very blessed with that. And it's been awesome. And I've gotten myself to a level where I can kind of really focus on the projects that I like to do. It wasn't that way at first. I was basically just taking anything that came in. But what I learned in the first 5 years was I can do it all, but I really want to specialize in certain areas. And it turns out for me, it's vintage guitar restoration and refret work. And if it falls under either of those two categories, I'm in. And especially with the vintage guitar repair, I'm having the opportunity to see some guitars. And it's not just limited to Vermont. I have a national, I can't say international yet, but I have a national base of customers that are sending me stuff for restoration work, and it's been just really awesome. Even despite the shipping problems we're having these days, it seems it's a little scary. $30,000 guitar, and it's not there yet. What? I'm sure it's safe. We have insurance on this, but yeah, it gets a little scary because, I'm just going to say it. It doesn't matter if you have $30,000 of insurance on a $30,000 guitar. That's
irreplaceable.
It's irreplaceable. Exactly. That $30,000 is like, it's like
irrelevant. Yeah.
It's irrelevant. Yeah, it really is. But yeah, I've been just super blessed and just super grateful for the local support. And not only just here in Vermont, but abroad as well. It's been great.
That's so cool that, you kind of basically had a full career in typical industry. And then within the last 15 years to convert to something totally creative, totally passionate, and build a business on your own.
Yeah. Yeah. It's, like I said, I have no regrets doing it. And I get up in the morning literally looking forward to what I get to do. And that's a good place to be in. And I'm very grateful for it. I just wish I did it sooner. I really do.
Do you think you could have done this earlier?
I don't know. That's a great question. I made great money in my day job. When you're running your own business, for yourself, I mean, obviously, you look at your labor hours and your time and stuff like that. It doesn't compare. I'm just going to be honest. It's hard. It's hard, but that's an easy price to pay for me when you're getting to do what you love to do. You know what I mean?
Oh, I know.
It's
totally
like, working for the man is, it was great.
Pays, but it drains.
Yeah, exactly. You look, one of the things that really hit me hard early on was like, what? I got to buy insurance now. Oh, okay. Not only for health, health insurance and stuff. It's like, it's tough when you don't have an employer that's kind of like covering that to a certain degree, right? Also, my business has to be insured too. I got to insure myself with my customers. And also I have guitars in the shop that I have to be insured for too. God forbid anything happens, but it's all that kind of stuff, all of that stuff that you don't think of going into it. And it's like, it becomes a reality and it's like, I keep going back to the statement I made earlier. It's like, I'm grateful that I did it. I love what I get. I love what I get to do. I consider it an honor and a privilege to work on some of the guitars that I get to and the people I get to work with, and it's been pretty great. I love it. But to answer your question, could I have? I don't know. I mean, it was a tougher time. Mortgage payments, kids.
Right.
It was tough. But yeah, I think I could have. I think I could have done it. It would have been a little bit harder, because I was still raising a family at that time. That would have added a complexity, I'm still kind of raising my kids, but all my kids are moved out. I got grandkids now. And that's really great. And it's been such a blessing, but, no, it's a good place to be in my life right now, with the business and stuff, even with COVID and all this other stuff that's going on. And, it's interesting. COVID had no effect on people's desire to play their guitars.
I was going to say, it probably helped, if anything. People getting back into it.
It was only tough during the shutdown, when Vermont decided that non-essential businesses were going to be shut down. This is going to shock you, but Vermont Guitar Works Hospital was considered non-essential.
Yeah, that ain't
much
right.
to the chagrins of my clients. They didn't agree with that. But I did my part. We did the shutdown. I was like for almost a good solid year before things, started opening up. And
even as a work from home shop, right?
A work from home shop, yeah. Basically, my doors were closed to anyone coming in during the real heavy part of that initial onset of the pandemic. And it was weird because I had this, in-house workload that was pre-existing, that was there, and I literally kind of went into it thinking, well, I can get kind of caught up on work, I don't have to, I was trying to look at the bright side of all this. I was like, if I can't have clients coming in, then, well, I'll just free up time for me to get caught up and stuff, which never happened, by the way. I was like, as hard as I tried. And that's a good problem to have. I'm grateful for that. But it was weird because I was finishing up guitars, but it wasn't appropriate for them to come and get their guitars because of the shutdown and stuff. It just got a little weird, but we worked through it and people were very understanding, and I'm glad that's kind of
and nobody knew what was going on at that point. So.
Yeah. This was like early on when what was it? It was going to be in 2 weeks to flatten the curve.
2 to 4 weeks. Yeah.
I was like, we'll give us a couple of weeks and we'll be done. But no, it didn't work out that way. But it all worked out.
If I've learned anything from this conversation so far, you must be much older than I think you are. So congratulations.
Oh, well, thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
But I'm adding up your work years. I'm like, unless you started, working when you were 4, that doesn't add up for me.
He made the comment earlier, like now that I'm an adult.
Like that was a fresh thing that you just realized?
That just happened last week. And my wife might even argue if it even happened at all.
Yeah, you're definitely a kid.
I love it. I love it. But yeah, dude.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
It's so funny when you start your own business, man. Like the hours do not add up.
No.
And you are never caught up.
No.
It doesn't matter if you have nothing to do, you're not caught up.
No.
It's crazy, right?
It is a little crazy, and I try to keep it under control. And it's interesting because the older I get, I like to think I'm mellowing out as I get older. And we're up to 7 grandkids now. Wow. And it's interesting. I look at my grandbabies, and it's so funny because they're growing up and we're adding new ones all the time, it seems. And it's funny because I'm a much mellower, because I'm not only the president owner of a guitar company, but I'm also a grandparent, and I'm mellowing out in terms of my business and and how I approach that. And as a parent, I see that in myself. I'm a much mellower grandparent than I ever was as a parent. And it's because it's just a different phase, it's a different thing. My wife and I joke, it's like, well, we have our grandkids for a few hours at a time, and then we can just send them home. Nice. It's that whole business. It's like, and I appreciate that, and I totally respect it.
You can be nice and fun for a couple hours.
Oh yeah. We had 2 of them over yesterday, and I took an hour or so out to just play with them, and I was grateful for that time and stuff, but I was exhausted afterwards. I was like, I'm not even sure if I could go work on guitars now. I'm wiped, that kind of thing.
So why Vermont in the name?
I have a selfish reason for that.
Oh, do you?
Yeah.
Good question.
It is a good question. I had a strategy.
Well, so part of that, and not to make this a long question, but like part of that is I wonder, I don't know, music. Oh, I'm going to Nashville. Oh, I could do such a better business in Nashville making guitars. Oh, I could go here. I could go there. Like you grew up in Vermont. You're still here. Vermont's in the name. Like what's the thought process?
No. Okay. So I feel that's a great question, because my answer, I'm going to be giving away a marketing secret.
Okay.
And I didn't go to marketing school. I didn't read this in a book or anything. But I was internet savvy enough, even 15 years ago, that now when I was starting off, I was like, I felt like I had to have a little bit of a hustle to get the workload to make this worthwhile, right? Because you're just starting off, right? So as a Luthier, although I was well connected in the guitar community, I really wanted to give it 110%. And part of that was, okay, if people were going to be looking for guitar work online, what would they Google search? They might type in Vermont guitar repair or something, right?
Yeah.
They're not just going to type
SEO
in,
mindset,
they're
right?
not going to be just typing guitar repair. They might type in, well, no, I need to find somebody local, right? So they're going to type in Vermont. I think that worked because initially, so when I set up Vermont Guitar Works, so it was like, I knew if they were doing a Google search, it was like, and again, I don't know if this is true or not, but in my mind was, who would be the first thing that popped up on their feed if they typed in Vermont guitar repair?
Yeah.
And I gotta tell you, it's like when I set up the website and I used that domain name, I was like testing it out, and I would have friends test it out because I wanted to make sure it wasn't just like a location thing or a feed thing. I still don't know much about how that all works, but I have friends who do. My thought was, this will probably help my business. And I don't know if it did, but I do know that initially, it's not so much now, although it does happen a little bit. Initially it seemed like, because I would ask them when people come in and I'm meeting them for the first time, I would always ask them, I go, hey, so how'd you find out about me? Did somebody drop my name? Was it a friend? Was it a referral? That kind of thing. It's like, oh, no, I found you on the internet. I go, oh, okay. But I would never go so far as to say, what keywords did you use to find me? I wouldn't go that far. I'd be like, oh, that's cool. Thanks. And then we would just move on. But I wonder So that to answer your question, that was specifically the only reason I did that was a Google search.
That
thing.
was smart.
I thought it was like, and even to this day, when I like, even if I'm in a different location or whatever, and I don't know if that still works. Because I think it needs to be a totally random person that doesn't even have any interest in guitars to do it. But I ask them, I say, hey, can you just type in like Vermont guitar repair? I want to know what pops up. But my name would always, like, my business would always pop. But I don't know enough about how that works.
Yeah,
if that was a thing. I don't know.
Yeah, it's totally a thing.
Is it a thing?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
gosh,
Yeah. I don't know. Like I said, I don't know much about how that does it now. And
So for somebody getting into it, business name idea is, guitar repair near me.
Yeah, right.
Repair near me.
Yeah.
hey, just for fun tonight when you're, in some quiet time, just type that and tell me what comes up first. It'll be interesting
In a private browser.
because there's a bunch of us doing this kind of stuff, and I've been very blessed. Like, a lot of my clients have been very good about reviews, and
Actually, I know my neighbor does that. It would pop up with the guy just a mile down the road.
oh yeah. So I think from a business advertising, like the Google reviews, I think that plays a part in how you rank. I don't know.
Yeah, probably.
I don't know.
Yeah,
It helps.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not savvy in that stuff. I mean, the website that I built, because I'm 110%, I built it myself, but I cheated. I got a program that you kind of guides you through that. And I was one of the first on board to use, I can't even remember the name of the program, but they went under, and they're no longer anymore, and nobody bought them and stuff. So they don't support, they're not even supporting that kind of stuff anymore. I'm like, oh, dang. So I had to find something else, and I found something else to help me, because I need to like refresh my website. It's pretty old.
Getting dated now.
It's
Websites
super
are
dated.
so tough, dude.
It's super, yeah. It's like, if you don't live in that world and that's not your thing, it's real. And I just don't have time for that stuff anymore.
Exactly. It's terrible.
Especially if you
because-
have the connections where you don't really rely on the website to get you traffic anyways.
Yeah, my
Right.
website's so bad, and I'm a filmmaker. I'm supposed to be good at that sort of thing, and it's just so bad. And
That's interesting you bring that up, because I have that mindset too.
Yeah, I just like whatever, man. I don't have time to fix it. I don't want to hire somebody to fix it because it doesn't bring me much money. So like, why bother? Like,
that's the thing. I may not do anything with it. Thanks to this discussion, I may just let it go, because most of my clients right now are just repeat folks and people that I love and been working with over the last 15 years, and it's been sustaining really, really well, and I appreciate that.
I'm gonna give you a secret though,
Okay,
because this is what I'm gonna do.
I'm totally listening.
This is what I'm gonna do, and it was offered to me. Sort of idea. Find a local college who has a web design major. Because web design majors, they need to build a website to graduate. So say, hey, I'm looking to get a new website. If you have a student that needs to do a project, link me up. And then you get a free sweet website, because they have to try hard, because they have to pass the class, and you get a free website.
Yeah, whatever. You
And
give them
I
a donation
totally
to their
picture them
program.
being
Yeah.
stupid good at it.
Yeah, exactly. So you're welcome for that idea. That is likely what I will be doing.
Yeah.
Whenever I want to make a new website, because I need to. Now that I'm like just doing moto stuff, I need to like rebrand stuff.
But you're in a unique position in that you can provide, what's the word? Content.
Yeah,
You can provide content that will blow their minds.
it does help.
I'll never forget. We're going to flip it up a little bit,
Okay.
since we're having this beautiful random round table. Before actually, I can't, because I knew Cam like way back at EAC.
Oh yeah,
Little drummer.
Let her drum away. That's where it all started.
That was
for
my
people.
engine. That's and it was for me, because I was doing the Christmas Spectacular show.
Yep.
Yeah,
That might have been my first Christmas Spectacular show.
really? 2009.
I think so.
Wow.
What do you remember? What we were wearing for outfits on stage?
I have no idea. I remember what I was wearing.
Were
I was
you
wearing
doing
a
the
little-
lit
Changed it a
suits?
lot.
I don't remember.
That might have been that year.
because that would be the first.
All I remember about that year was me being the little drummer boy. That's all I remember.
I think it was the Litz Christmas suits.
which we talked about in the last episode with Chris.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Yeah,
like how
we
he
did.
did it because he built those.
I wish Chris was here because we would be talking. I got a fun Chris story. Maybe this will somehow segue into your discussion with him, which already happened. So it won't.
Whatever. Last
But anyway,
episode.
yeah. So this is when I really got to understand how solid of an electronics guy Chris is. I mean, he really is. Like, so it wasn't enough that he was like designing and putting together these wireless
Yeah.
LED lit
Controlled,
suits. There's a
yeah.
lot of behind the scenes stuff. I don't know if he shared like one of them almost catching on fire.
Yeah.
He brought that one up.
He set Chris Fleury on fire. Yeah.
Yeah, he's proud of that, by the way.
Hot suit.
Yeah. But it was interesting because I, as a guitarist who was, my tone of my guitar was so important, right? It was like so critical, and it shouldn't have been, but it was. Tommy 110%.
That's the name of this episode, by the way.
It should be a t-shirt. It's so funny. My wife was here. She would like tell you so many crazy stories. Like my recent desire to go scuba diving. That's a whole other discussion.
Oh, we got to talk about that, but later.
Yeah. So I forgot where I was going with that. Oh yeah. So Chris is like, I was like, well, one of the technical problems, I don't know if he brought this one up. I can't wait to watch the episode. It's not out yet, right?
Not yet.
Okay. At the time of this. Okay. So I remember whenever the suit would light up, it was like coming on and going off. So it was like doing all this crazy light. So I was a walking light show, right? Well, just imagine as an electrical engineer, I understood that this was emitting some kind of RF frequency that was getting picked up by my wireless pickup system for the guitar and all this business. And it was like coming through the house PA. It was a bit of a nuisance. It was a problem. But Chris, being the pure genius that he is, well, I'm going to come up with a circuit that will filter all that out and it'll fix that. Well, he did.
Wow.
But he's not a guitar player.
Yeah.
And this messed my tone up so bad. And you didn't understand, Chris, I say this with love and grace, but it really ruined my guitar tone. But it cleaned up the sound, nice.
Visual act.
Yeah. From that whole perspective. And I remember being so disappointed. It was like, but we had to have this circuit in there, but it was like totally messing up my guitar tone, because I was such a tone snob.
That's hilarious.
But we got through it. But there was so many fun behind the scenes. Like that was also the year I broke toes in my foot. I was walking with this horrible, if you watch the video, I'm kind of like limping around if you watch carefully, but I broke 3 toes like a week before the show.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And it was such a big deal. I mean, the months of rehearsal and the hours that go into that. It's like the show must go on. And going through all that, Chris's suit almost catching on fire, all of the shenanigans. And of course, I have to bring this part up, but if you watch the video, because we did like 9 shows, right? Something like that.
Yeah.
It was crazy a number of shows that we did. And if you remember, like my part in the show where I come out, like because it was Michael on the sax, and it was really brilliant. And Ron orchestrated the whole thing. He did such a great job of writing that piece and coming up with that medley and stuff. And I remember I had this really cool. Like I came out on stage, the band was starting and they had the smoke machine going and the black light. It was so well put together. And all I had to do was come out and play this smoking riff introduction to my guitar part. And I loved that part. And I think out of the 9 shows, 8 times I nailed it, except for the one that was produced for the CD. I didn't nail it on that. So to this day, every time I watch it, there was this one note that I hit that didn't belong in that scale.
Oh, no.
It drives me crazy. I'm like, I get my heart just sinks just thinking about it. But it wasn't about that one note that Tommy screwed up. There was a few others, but nobody really knew. But that one was pretty obvious. It was that one. It's like, and you're probably thinking, actually, no, you ruined it all 9 times. That was probably the better of the 9. But anyway,
That was an epic.
There was some good
performance.
those shows were so much fun. It's sad to think that, we only got to do that whole thing for like 5 or 6 years since that whole performance anyway. But at least we had that time that we got to do that, right?
Yeah, it was fun.
And Ron did such an amazing job of orchestrating all that and coordinating that massive effort.
Massive.
It was
Those
massive.
were big shows.
They were
Especially-
huge.
Like, I can't even imagine doing it with the analog board that they had.
Yeah.
Like, oh my gosh.
Wasn't the best equipment.
Oh man, but what came out of it?
What came out of it was pretty. I can't even imagine. Like, I'll be honest. Like, I wish we could do it all over again with the technology that's available now.
I know.
Because it's different.
Yeah.
It's different, right down to the cameras and all that stuff. It's so different, and I think a lot better.
Oh yeah.
Like I said, I have no regrets of what we did, but let's redo it. Let's bring Ron back.
Yeah. Right.
And
Give
let's
him a
start
retirement project.
Yeah, we're just
Design
gonna do all the classics from just kind of mash them all together.
But
right?
every aspect could be done so better now
To a different level.
with
Yeah.
not just our personal skills, but the technology skills, the video skills. Not since this is a random show, I might as well share that like the Christmas spectaculars that our church put on was what got me into event videography.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, because Dad shot him. That's how he got into video stuff. Was he had a camera and went to church and they're like, oh hey, can you shoot this? So that's how he got into it. And then I was in like 6th grade and getting interested too. And Dad was like, hey, you want to come just give me a second angle? And I'm like, yeah, sure. And then of course, live theater performance, lights, whole shebang, high energy music. It's like, this is awesome.
Yeah.
So then I got into doing event videography from those. And I did them for whatever the 8 or 10
That's
years
fun.
that they did. Yeah.
That's really cool. I didn't know any of that stuff. That's really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's fun because when I think about you guys and because I remember early on when I started going there, seeing Tim there.
Yeah.
He was one of the few familiar faces that I knew when I started going there. And it was really fun catching up with him and seeing your beautiful family all supporting the cause over there and stuff. And it's great that you guys are still doing that.
Yeah, it's cool.
It's awesome.
It's cool. Yeah, the only reason I'm there is because of I got asked by Andy to come and shoot I think the last year we were at the gym for Easter at UVM.
Those were huge.
So I ran camera.
I felt
for
like
that.
a rock star playing at those.
Yeah, I bet.
Seriously. Because that stage was huge.
Yeah, Chris in the last episode said it was like 60 feet, something like that.
Yeah.
Just massive.
It'll be forever the largest stage I ever had the pleasure and honor of playing on. And the turnouts were like in the thousands, right?
Oh gosh, yeah.
Yeah,
thousands.
And to play in front of like a couple thousand people is pretty cool. I mean, how many worship guitar? Well, actually, it was a lot, but
Not in the Northeast.
but yeah, right. But not from Jeffersonville, Vermont.
Yeah. Definitely
Right.
not up here.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, that was cool.
No, that was. I remember that stuff like it was yesterday because that stage was huge, and we did that for a few years, and that was a lot of fun. I mean, it was pretty special just to be sharing that platform with all you guys and being able to do what we did. And those are the few times I can't say I was allowed to, but I got away with bringing my Marshall half stack.
Unleash the beast.
Oh,
I hope Ron watches this. And Ron, if you're watching, I know you totally were not into me doing that, but we had to do it.
You felt like a rock star. We felt like rock stars because
Listen,
we were
it was
on
a
stage.
60-foot stage. You just got to have something to plug into, right?
Oh yeah, you were roaming on stage.
Yeah.
You had a camera
Yeah.
on the stage. It's so cool. I just remember. Oh man, those were fun. That was my first introduction into serving at the church. So that was
That's cool.
That was a big.
That's fun.
And then I'm still there.
And blessed for it. I'm just going to say it.
It's been great. But now I'm jumping back a little bit, but I don't know anything about making a guitar.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but like my question is, do you just play your own like made from the tree guitars, or do you still like buy guitars?
Okay,
or, like,
I got a confession. I do both. I do.
Okay, fair enough.
I do both. I'm not gonna lie. I do have guitars that are considered production. You know, the classics like the Gibsons. I got a Gretsch. I've got a Fender. You know,
The go-tos, yeah.
I got the go-tos.
Staples.
I don't know of any guitar builders. There might be a few. But most of the ones that I personally know, they too have the classics. You know, you get but we're always partial to the ones that we build. And the reason for that, I think, is because as a guitar builder, we can fine tune these things beyond anything that a high volume manufacturer, like, you know, no ding against Gibson or Fender or Gretsch. Those are great guitars. But to have one that can be dialed to a player's needs and to the level of performance specifications, you're just not gonna get that on a over the counter. That's just a term I'm going to use for a guitar. An over the counter mass produced Gibson Les Paul. Those are great guitars, and you can dial those in pretty good. But I'm more about a finely handcrafted guitar from a tree. You know, and I think that's really, really cool. There was a period in my life in my guitar building where purchasing parts and kind of like doing guitar assembly was cool. And I still think that's cool. But I needed, for my own personal satisfaction, I just needed to do it from scratch. And I really mean by scratch. And I had an opportunity because I have like 10 acres of hardwood forest on my own personal property. And I got some, you know, this has got to be a God thing, right? I have this beautiful stand of maple that is just like, this is like primo select guitar building stuff. It's like this is like world class stuff, like figured maple growing right on my, it's like all old growth stuff. And what I mean by that is like, this stuff this is like unforested, good old fashioned Vermont land that hasn't been forested in ever. And so I've got these trees that are like these old, you know, sugar maple trees that are like 4 or 5 inches, 5 feet in diameter, inches. You got those too. Yeah. There's a few of those in there too. But these things are huge. Not that that makes a great guitar, but it's like some of these old growth maples are just so beautiful. And I didn't know that going into it, but I remember cutting a few. Actually, what happened, there was a lightning storm that hit one of the trees pretty darn close to our house. This was before I started thinking about building my own, using sourced lumber off of my own property. But anyway, it took down this maple. It was a pretty healthy maple at the time, but that lightning just this is a tree. It's amazing what lightning can do. It was like a 3-foot diameter. It was like 36-inch diameter maple that took a hit and it like split this thing, and it was dying and stuff. So I went out with my chainsaw and I started cutting it up, and I'm looking at the grain on this as a guitar luthier and, you know, knowing a thing or two about grain patterns and stuff like that. I'm like, whoa. I go, this tree has got some really good stuff. And I'm talking about the figuring in the maple, you know, the grain patterns and stuff like that. And I wonder how much more of this. And I got a whole forest of this stuff. Wow. And I'm very blessed. But so I remember cutting that stuff and I'm thinking I could make some really cool guitars out of this. And as a builder and a fabricator from the motorcycle world and all this kind of stuff, just the thought of like building it from scratch really appealed to me. But like I said, I really wanted to do this from a tree that I took down. And I had to do a lot of learning. I had a learning curve to go through. Like I didn't know at the time that, like, I thought you could just cut a tree. This is embarrassing, but I thought you could just cut a tree and then like a couple weeks later, you'll have a guitar. But I realized there was this curing and drying process, and I've burned firewood almost all my life. I should have known that, it's like, oh, a couple weeks, this will be dry. No, it doesn't work that way. You have to cure it at a certain rate. So
especially
it doesn't
with big chunks.
Yeah. You don't want it to crack. And so it was like a whole thing. And the next, Tommy, 110%, I actually started looking into like, well, how do I get this green maple to state where I can actually consider building a guitar from it. And then I started looking into kiln drying processes, and stuff like that. So I built my own kiln in my shop.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's just big enough for me to put the pieces that I'm going to be using, for bodies and necks, and I can get that in there. I still like to have that stuff sitting around in the shop for a couple of years before I do anything with it. But I like to kickstart things off with a good kiln curing process because it takes care of all it gets into a lot like bugs and like that's a thing.
Take your powder coating room and turn it into a kiln.
Did you know about my powder coating thing?
I don't know. You did one thing for Dad or something one time. I came up
goodness,
and saw
I almost forgot
briefly.
about that.
I don't know.
Yeah, I might have. I actually had a powder coating business. I totally forgot about it. It was like for 2 years.
That was a whole business, huh?
That was a whole thing.
Huh.
Yeah, it didn't do well. It lasted 2 years. What it turned out to be was not that somebody couldn't make a go of it in this state, and I ended up selling it to somebody who made a really good business out of it. But I actually built my own powder coating oven. I did. I built that sucker. It was 8 feet. The inside dimensions was 8 feet tall and 4 feet wide.
Walk-in oven.
It was a walk-in oven. And it was another fun story along with that. But I was taking out our household transformer and nobody could figure out why. It was like they had to keep coming and resetting it. But anyway, that didn't do well because my labor to cost and income was just so horrible. But it was one of those side businesses that I was doing because I was doing motorcycle parts and stuff. So I was building bikes and
you were in that realm. Yeah.
I was in that realm. In other words, I was building bikes and I was like, how cool would it be for me to be able to powder coat my own stuff? This is, it's not rocket science. So
if you can weld, you can grind, you can paint it, why not powder coat something?
Yeah. And I thought powder coating, and it still is, it's a superior finish on, for bikes and stuff. But it didn't really work out. It was great while I was building bikes, but to do it for other people, it turned out to be so hard. Can
you powder coat wood? Powder coated guitar? Sounds like a candy coating.
Yeah, you can do all those kind of finishes with powder coating, but with wood, it's the temperatures you got to get them up to. We're talking like 400 degrees Fahrenheit for powder coating, and 400 degrees for a hunk of wood is like, it's almost catching on fire.
Yeah, you're getting there.
Yeah, it's getting close. It's getting pretty close. Yeah.
Well, to loop you back, you were talking about woodworking, and I've done some milling myself, and it's addicting when you slab open a tree and see the grain. You're like,
you're talking my language.
That's beauty.
Yeah. Are you using a chainsaw mill?
Yeah, chainsaw. I did hemlock flooring in our house, and I milled it all with chainsaw mill.
So you've got some muscle into that.
Well, I've got half the house done. But yeah,
I've got to see this.
Yeah.
Because I have mad
beautiful.
respect. That's what I'm using because I could, as you know, you can
110%.
You can throw that mill on your ATV and you can go to the tree and do what you got to do and bring it back. And I don't have a skid steer or a backhoe or a tractor. Sometimes I wish I did.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I don't have that stuff.
Logging winch.
But it's kind of cool that the whole. If you haven't, for anyone who's listening and watching, just Google Alaskan chainsaw mill.
Yeah.
And you can see what's involved. But it's a lot of work for that one slab.
A lot of work, a lot of tools. It takes a long time.
Yeah.
And then you got to wait for it to dry at least a year.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, if it's a year, then it's probably only an inch thick, right?
Exactly. It's a year per inch. So your guitar is probably 2-3 inch slab to start.
Inches. Yeah. And I would only do the kiln to kickstart that and kill the bugs.
Yeah.
Well, I had a bug problem.
Happens, yeah.
My first batch of maple I brought in, it was gorgeous stuff. I was excited. But what I didn't know was, thank goodness it wasn't like termites or something, because that is a thing. I brought into my shop an entire carpenter ant thing colony in one of my slabs that I didn't see. Now, if I had saw that in the field when I was cutting, I would have either left it or got rid of them or, but it didn't happen. I brought them right into the shop unknowingly. And so here's the deal. If I was doing kiln dry process at the time, which I switched to later, I would have, that colony would have went in the oven. I hope there's nobody listening that are carpenter ant lovers.
Yeah, right.
But this is the thing. I would have cooked them and they would have been not a problem anymore. But yeah, I had a little bit of a carpenter ant situation that I got under control pretty quickly. But it stunk that I had to go through that because it freaked me out because they were everywhere.
I bet.
And this is my home.
It's a learning curve to figure out how to deal with that.
And these guys were huge and aggressive and just mean looking.
Yeah.
And I don't like bugs to begin with. I was like, you need to leave. You need to be out. But it took like 2 or 3 months of doing bait trapping and all this other
Dealing with ants.
Yeah,
Oh my
stuff.
gosh.
It finally was not a problem. But yeah, it was just really weird.
All right, so we were talking about trees, milling, their character, the craftsmanship.
Thank you.
Quick question, try to answer it quickly, because it's a lead-in. How many from the tree guitars have you built?
129. I'm just kidding. I just made that up.
I was about to be
Is it like
shocked.
3
I was trying to be
or like,
quick.
yeah.
Okay, how many have I built from scratch?
Yeah.
Okay, you're gonna laugh. 4.
Okay.
Wow, really?
Yeah, and I'm totally cool with that. I have absolutely no desire or intention of building a plethora of Tommy Graves custom from scratch guitars. When I'm dead and I'm gone, my legacy will be a very small handful of these You've heard of Antonio Stradivarius, right? I'm not comparing myself to Stradivarius. Mm-hmm. But he only had 5 known to existence guitars that he built. A lot of people don't even he's only known for his violins and cellos, right? But there's 5 known guitars. I want people to think of my guitars like Antonio Stradivarius. It's really pushing it, I know.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Where are those 4 guitars?
Yeah.
My guitars that I built?
Yeah.
Okay. One of them you almost see on Sundays by Big Al Lemery from the Starline Rhythm.
He has
Boys.
one?
He has one. He has one of those guitars. The other 3 are folks you don't even know their names. And there might be a 5th in process, but I can't name drop right now. I can't, if you know what I mean. Yeah, I've sworn to secrecy.
Exciting then.
Yeah, it's kind of fun. And I don't like doing what I call spec builds. In other words, hey, this is what I want. Can you do it for me? But this guy was like, he's very well known and kind of famous. And I'm like, I can't say no. See what we can do. I really want
an
to.
opportunity.
And that's another thing too. It's like it's same thing with Al, because Al's got the first one I ever built. But I told him, because he'd been beating me up for years. This is a fun little side story. He had been beating me up for a couple. Well, you got to build me a guitar, please, please. You know, he's like, and I was honored that he wanted me to do that. Of all the builders he could have chose, but I was like, all right, Al. But I kept telling him, I said, but I got to be into what you want. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, 100%.
I have to be like when you come over and we sit down and we talk about the guitar you want me to build for you. No offense, but if I'm not feeling what you want, even though you really, really want, you'd be better just going to somebody else, because I really, really want to be into it. And I wasn't sure what to expect, but he came in and we sat down for like 4 hours and we were like, kind of strategizing of what we were going to go. And I was down with everything he said. And I'm like, you know what? This is really going to work. And I said, you give me 1 year to do this? And he was like, yeah. Now that may seem like a long time. But keeping in mind, I have the repair business, and I really wanted to do a super great job with this guitar, and I think I pulled it off with what we call as Otis #1. So yeah,
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
So cool.
Yeah, it's really cool.
I love that idea. Only having like 5 or 6 in existence
For right now, but my intent is like, I know I got a chunk of life left in me to go, and I still don't think I've hit. What's the word I'm looking for? I don't think I've hit the ceiling yet. You know what I'm saying? And I think I got 20 left in me. And
Wow.
before I'm gone, before the world is done with me.
Did you mean 20 more guitars? Because that's what I thought.
20 guitars.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was
Not 20 years.
I was like, 20 years. I was like, wait, did we just take a turn in this conversation?
Man, he is getting old. Right? Yeah, it's hardly laid out.
80-year-old man sitting with us right here.
Hey, I could, it's really funny. Could I see myself doing this at 80? I don't know. I don't know. We were just talking about me being 80 because my granddaughter was there. I was like, let's see, when she's 20, I'm going to be 80. And I'm like, I really hope I'm around to see her get married, all that kind of stuff.
Right.
All that kind of fun stuff. And it's really odd because, she's like 2. And I'm looking at her like, we're not even going to be thinking about that for her right now. She's so little. Yeah. But yeah, I'm thinking I've got, because like I said, I'm not talking about a large number of guitars, but I'm hoping that I can get 20 guitars out of me. But these things are going to be special. I mean, the level of detail that goes into these guitars is pretty excruciating. And all the while I'm running the repair business, which I love. And I love restoring these old guitars. And I've learned a lot just from that in an effort in the design and build of these guitars that I'm building. A lot of the things that I love about the guitars that I'm restoring, I actually am able to integrate and build into the ones that I'm building. Mm-hmm. And I think that's kind of special. But I'm not building a lot of them.
Yeah.
Because it just takes so much time.
No, that's cool, though.
Because, I'm literally going out in the woods with a chainsaw and finding these select woods, if you will, primarily maple and some ash. And I think that's part of what makes them so special. And it's, taken from tree to guitar. And I love that. Obviously some of the hardware on there I'm not building, although I have a full machine shop and I don't think
electronics background.
Yeah. I just don't see myself making hand wrapping capacitors and stuff like that. Or making tuners and stuff. I don't know if there would be much value added in doing something like that, but I'm into like crafting the wood and creating something really special in the guitars. That's a lot of fun for me.
Now, I know every guitar is different, and of those 4 that you've built, I'm sure you put different parts on them and they're all unique. But do you think that, you've got multiple maple trees in your backyard? Can you tell or do you think you could tell the difference between the sound of maple A and maple B, or is maple close enough?
That's an excellent question.
Terroir, that's the word I wanted to use. Is there a terroir to not just tree species, but individual trees?
Absolutely. You're right. There's tonal quality notable that, even the average listener can pick up on between the different woods, even on an electric solid body guitar. But no 2 pieces of wood are alike. They talk about a snowflake, fingerprints, wood grain patterns. It's the same thing. No 2 pieces of wood are alike. And tonally, they're going to be different. Some people might argue that 2 pieces of wood cut from the same tree, maybe in the same grain length, tonally will sound incredibly similar. And I would agree with that. Could I blindfold test, hear the difference? Yeah, I probably could, but only because they're going to be 2 different guitars. We'll never really know. But yeah, for sure. And I love that whole idea of, look at this table. I mean, the beautiful grain on everything. There's not another one like it. It's when you look at that, it's literally it's one of a kind. There may be other tables cut from the same factory and stuff, but that grain pattern was made by God. And there's not another one like it. And if you think about that, that's pretty cool. I was once listening to a podcast of some guys that were talking about tone woods and woods. It's interesting because we're talking about building and creating something out of a piece of wood when that chunk of wood is a miracle in itself. They actually refer to it as miracle compound W, because we can't make that. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, that is a unique one one of a kind. I know I'm getting really super deep here, but I when I'm cutting a tree out in the middle of the woods, it's like I don't take that lightly. It's like, this is a living organism, and I'm cutting its life short, so to speak. But at the same time, I'm also appreciating the fact that I'm giving it new life. It's not getting thrown into a fireplace. At least I hope my guitars aren't being thrown in the fireplace. It's kind of special thinking that, I'm creating something that, will last beyond the natural life cycle of a piece of wood sitting out rotten in the woods, because I know you cut wood too, you see the trees, the blowdowns and what, and it's like, it's almost a shame because I've seen some pretty nice logs that
absolutely,
like, oh, look at the rot on that. It's like, that's not happening. So, yeah,
that's interesting. Yeah, I was just thinking.
Did I make you think about wood? When you look at a wood table now, you got to consider the fact that is a one of a kind.
That's true. It's like snowflakes.
No, but I can totally relate to that and other things of just aspects of film of how you like look at certain things and. Yeah, it's cool. But I was just thinking, I was like, man, maybe I need one of the Tommy Grave signature guitars hanging up next to my dirt bike in the house. But that's probably not what you would want for your 20 guitars. Do you want them to be well loved?
I do, actually.
Yeah, that's the thing. You wouldn't want to just hang
Cam, I'm going to make an exception.
Okay. Yeah. All right.
It's just a shell.
I'm picturing that guitar up by that. Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. We're gonna make this happen. I'm gonna make a note of that.
Yeah, you're right.
Put you on my roster.
Yeah.
On the waiting list there. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. That's cool though.
It's interesting you brought that up because I have to digress just a little bit. The motorcycle thing. that Smackdown bike. I never really knew what would become of it, because, at the bike shows people was, oh yeah, it's a piece of art. You can't ride it. Nah, you can ride it.
Right.
But what would the new owner do with it? Would it end up at a restaurant for bikers? I didn't, would it be on display only? Yeah. But I'm happy to tell you, this dude has made it a daily rider.
That's awesome.
Yeah. He sends me pictures on occasion and I'm like, look at you,
Oh, that's
wow.
So great.
Yeah. And I like that. I like knowing that it's being ridden. And I want to think that all my guitars
are being played.
They're being played.
Yeah.
And, Big Al Lemery, he's no exception. I know
he plays
them hard too. I love that.
Yeah, I love it.
I love that he doesn't baby them.
No,
there's a running joke too because when he brings it in for his annual tune-up, I'm like, what have you been? And but he's the guy. I probably shouldn't say this, but it's no secret. Al's pretty proud of the fact that he doesn't take care of them, and he's very proud of that. He likes to think that he plays it so hard and it's still in tune and all this other business, and and the hell that he puts him through. And it's really kind of turned into a joke because in the dead of winter, leaving your guitar in the car when it's 30 below, it's not. But I'm here to tell you that Graves guitars, they put up with the endurance.
I love it.
It's that slow cure
I didn't
process.
know that when I built that first guitar for Al that he was going to be my endurance tester. Wow.
I love it.
He really puts it through a lot. I love it. It's good stuff.
So you build your own guitars from the scratch up. Do you write your own music?
I don't. I tried.
It's a different kind of art.
I tried. And I went into it thinking, I'm going to be the greatest music writer of all time. And I'm going to write the coolest songs because I knew what I liked. And if I liked it, other people will like it too. But it is different. It's different. It's hard. It's hard. I don't need to go into the details of that, but it's hard to write something and be creative and do it in such an artistic and way that other people are going to enjoy it too. I couldn't even get past the writing part. I think it's the artist in me that never knew when to stop painting the painting. I had a small studio. I was doing some writing and I was driving myself crazy in the details. Like it was never good enough. And I'd be working on one piece to death, like to a fault. Like it was like, I can't even complete it because it's never good enough. And it turned out that I was really horrible at it. And I'm not even good at recording. And I thought I would be like, I was going to be like this great, person that could make a mix and it'll be amazing. But there's such an art to that. And I've gotten to know people in the industry through the work that I do who are good at it. And when you see them do what they do, it's like, yeah, it's like God made you in such a way that you can pull that off and do it so well and effortlessly. Whereas me, I'm just not gifted.
You can appreciate it. And your skills come in other ways.
That's where I think I've matured a little bit. It's like, as I get older, I'm starting to, it's taken me years to figure out that what are those areas that I am gifted in? And then coming to the realization of those areas that I'm not. And that was hard for me because I like to think I can do everything 110%. And it turns out it's because I do dive in so deep on everything I pursue. It was those areas where I wanted to be really good at it. And no matter how hard I tried, and I fail, and that was hard for me. And it was learning to let go and say, you know what? This is just not your gifting. You just need to move on and be okay with that. And that was a big turning point for me.
I have one last question.
Okay.
Then I'm done. There's a common saying in the filmmaking world that a project is never finished, but it's abandoned.
Interesting.
Have you ever finished a guitar before?
It's really odd that I kind of felt this question coming because as I was speaking, there's a lot of that in there. Even repair is a lot like that. Like when I'm doing a finish repair.
How do you stop?
Yeah, it's like I'm trying to make that finish repair look like it never happened. And, do you ever really get there? Maybe to some people, but to me, it's not so much. In guitars, yes, but I have to force that. I have to make myself be okay with it. It's a really super excellent question because I have each guitar I've ever built and the ones that I know I'm going to be building in the future. I'm going through that where I'm like, when are you done? When is enough enough? And I'm going to say yes, but it's hard.
Sure. Yeah.
That's a great question.
Yeah.
What a way to close out. That was great.
All right. If you could give a piece of advice to maybe somebody who's thinking about a career as a luthier, what advice would you give them just getting started?
That's a good question. I would start by, and it's really hard to do this because I've been requested if I would offer an apprentice program, and I get asked a lot. And unfortunately, I'm not the guy saying yes because there's just no time or place in my shop to pull that off. But that's not to say there's other ones that are not. So my best advice for somebody who's really serious about doing this would to do an apprenticeship with a professional luthier. Find one that'd be willing to open up their shop and give you a shot at doing that. Unfortunately, my shop I'm just not set up to be able to pull that off, or how I run my business. I can't do it, but I know there's others that would be willing to do it. And when you go into it, you got to just know that when you're sending a note that they're probably getting a lot of requests. Maybe write something that would help you stick out as being somebody they would actually consider bringing in there. And it's not probably going to be you just saying, hey, I want to be a luthier. Can I? You just put a little time and effort into going that if you really seriously want to do that. And you may find that it is not for you. It's a special breed to do what we do. I used to say, well, find a good luthier school to do that. I don't say that anymore, only because I know of so many guys who went into luthier school, and it's a big deal. A lot of times you have to move, sometimes out of state. It's a big expense, and that's a tough thing to go through, only to find out this isn't your thing. Remember we were talking about gifting
and craftsmanship.
Yeah. Some people would go into it, I think, with the idea that I'm gifted and this is what I want to do and this is going to be amazing. But until you do it, you don't really know. I had the fortunate life experience where I got to do that on the side on my own for my own guitars and for friends and stuff, then I kind of learned that I really like doing this. So I knew going into it that this was going to be good for me in terms of, would I enjoy it? But that's not for everybody. I know guys who've thought this is going to be amazing. I have specific clients, the names that come to mind who, because we talk, and he says, I'm so glad I found you, because I can't do this. And I thought I could, and it just didn't work out. Be it from a skill or it's just not their, they get no satisfaction out of it. It's a weird breed to get satisfaction out of this because there's not a lot of money in it. You got to work hard. You got to put the hours in. It's got to be more than the money because you got to get something more out of it than that. And for me, it's basically just seeing the smile on their face and just turning over a good product, doing an excellent repair, bringing that guitar back to life from whatever ailed it, and just seeing the joy. Because some of these guys, with their guitars that they've owned for 30, 40 years. This is their baby. They want it to be the best that it could be. And to bring it back better than they ever remembered is pretty special. And it sounds corny, but, when it happens, it's like there's music playing in the background and it's very dramatic. And tears are flowing of joy. And it's pretty awesome. And for me, that's the satisfaction. Nothing short of that. The money's, it helps pay the bills. So that's
right.
As far as it goes, right?
All right. Well, where do people find you?
You can find me on Facebook at Vermont Guitar Works. I think it's just Vermont Guitar Works. And you can find my website that we talked a little bit about at vermontguitarworks.com. And don't even try to call me because I don't answer the phone. And there's some reasons behind that. I just don't have the time. I'm so sorry. Email me at vermontguitarworks at hotmail.com and just reach out and we'll talk and we'll see how I might be able to help you.
Well, thank you, Mr. Guitar Doctor. This has been awesome. I think a year down the line, I think we're just going to have to do another.
Yeah, because I'd be down for that.
Because we could just keep going.
I know. There's so many topics we still have.
Pick a tangent and
go. Yeah, I bet there's things that, we just reminded you of a job that you had, and a room that you had that you forgot about in a business, all this stuff. But yeah, no, I think this was great. Thank you very much for doing this.
Thank you for having me.
This has been awesome.
You guys have been great. It's been a lot of fun.
It's been awesome.
Thank you.
If you're still listening, you obviously are a fan of the show, so please comment that you like this in the YouTube video. Make sure you subscribe to our channel. And if you're a fan, we've got some stickers, so send us a note and maybe we can hook you up. Thanks for listening. Hope you enjoyed this episode, and we'll see you in the next one. Have a good day.